A juke joint in deep Mississippi, bloodstained floorboards and bodies in motion, spirits in the shadows, and the painting that inspired it all. Today we are breaking down the true meaning and history behind the juke joint in Ryan Coogler's Sinners, the role it plays in the movie's horror and hope, and how a famous painting called the Sugar Shack became its visual and spiritual blueprint. What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. And do me a favor, if you're into videos about sinners, please hit that thumbs up button. 500 is the like goal. Subscribe to the channel for more of this, and also share this video across all platforms so it could reach more people, so more people will go out there and watch and appreciate what Ryan Coogler actually did by making this movie Sinners. Let's do this. Let's start with the painting that inspired it all, Ernie Barnes' legendary 1976 work, The Sugar Shack. If it looks familiar, that's because it appeared on the cover of Marvin Gaye's album, I Want You, and the credits of Good Times. But it's more than just nostalgic art, it's a memory. The Sugar Shack was painted from Barnes' recollection of sneaking into black dance halls as a child, where he saw black bodies in motion, unrestrained, expressive, alive. These figures he pictured were bent, swaying, disoriented. It's dance as freedom despite all the pain that is surrounding them. Ryan Coogler brings that painting to life in Sinners. The juke joint, the film's most joyous and most dangerous place, is a living, breathing version of the Sugar Shack. The curved bodies, the spiritual motion, the defiance. But in Coogler's world, that freedom is under threat, not just by vampires, but by American history itself. To understand the juke joint in Sinners, we have to understand where it comes from, not just geographically, but historically. They were not ordinary bars or clubs. Juke joints were radical spaces for survival, rebellion, and black freedom in a world that tried to strip all of these things away from them. Now let's go back to the late 1800s and early 1900s, in the heart of the American South. During and after Reconstruction, Jim Crow laws were solidifying and segregation was becoming not just a custom, but law itself. Black Americans were pushed to the margins, denied entry into white establishments, refused service, and policed for even minor acts of leisurely expression. With no legal or safe public spaces to gather, black communities created their own, the juke house or juke joint. Usually informal, located in someone's home, a barn, a shack, or an abandoned building on the edge of a cotton field. These joints sprang up wherever there was space to breathe. You could drink, you could dance, you could hear the blues, the genre that became the very soul of American modern music. The word juke comes from the Gullah word jaw, meaning rowdy or disorderly. And that's how white society saw them, as dangerous, immoral dens of sin. But for black folk in the rural South, they were the only spaces where joy, intimacy, and cultural expression could breathe. In Sinners, smoking stacked by an abandoned sawmill, a formal site of racial violence, and transformed it into their own juke joint. This isn't just reinvention, it's restoration. They reclaim the site of trauma and turn it into a place of celebration, but the floorboards are still stained. Coogler reminds us black joy often exists on ground soaked with black blood. The juke joint in Sinners is not just a nightclub, it's a portal, a spiritual gathering ground where the ancestors arrive not as memory, but as presence. The air thickens, shadows move against the beat, and one by one they come. As Sammy strums his guitar, gifted by his cousin Smoke and Stack, something begins to stir. His voice carries not through space, but through time, waking the souls of the long silence. These aren't just ghosts for effect. Each spirit in the juke joint carries cultural and historical weight. They are symbols of lineage, resistance, and unresolved trauma, and they arrive in waves responding to the frequencies of pain and beauty in Sammy's blues. The first to arrive are ancestors from the Mississippi Delta, men and women in dusty overalls, threadbare dresses, and church hats. They are workers of cotton fields, mothers of lynched sons, black musicians who died broke and buried without a name. They appear near the dance floor, leaning against the wall and seated in corners, watching silently. Their faces reflect loss, but also pride. In Sammy's voice, they hear their story being sung back to them. This moment is deeply rooted in African spiritual tradition, where music acts as a bridge between the living and the dead. In voodoo, hoodoo, and other religions, spirits respond to sound, rhythm, and vibration, just as they do here. Then, unexpectedly, the camera pans, and we see others in the room, Asian spirits. They stand near the back, dressed in clothes from different eras. A Chinese rail worker in 19th century garb, a Japanese pitcher bride, a Vietnamese laundry woman, a Filipino farmhand in the sugarcane stained clothes, all gazing silently at the stage. Their presence is intentional. Coogler Center isn't just a story about black pain, it's also the legacy of colonial trauma, labor exploitation, and the way music binds oppressed people across history. So why are these spirits here? Because like our black ancestors, these Asian figures lived under racist systems that exploited their bodies and erased their stories. And yet, like Sammy, they survived through cultural resilience. So let's take a moment to dig into the real world history behind them. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act became the first major federal law in the U.S. to ban immigration based on race and nationality. Chinese laborers who had helped build the Transcontinental Railroad were now deemed illegal and unwanted, but many remained, pushed into work that was marginal and racialized, like laundromats, restaurants, and small grocery stores. But here's the twist. Chinese-owned stores were often the only ones that would sell to both black and white customers in the segregated southern towns. Chinese immigrants existed in a strange middle place, not legally white, but not black at all. And so, like Sammy and the patrons of the Juke joint, they lived on the edge of American societies. That's why their spirits appear in centers. They represent another thread of marginalized labor, another voice drowned out, and now summoned by the same melody that brings Sammy's ancestors to life. They come back to life also. These spirits do not speak, they don't need to. Their presence is a reminder that the South wasn't isolated. It was connected to a global system of migration, exploitation, and cultural exchange. The Juke joint becomes a kind of diasporic temple where the spirits of the oppressed, black, Asian, indigenous, poor, gather not to haunt, but to witness. They appear when Sammy plays because his music breaks through the veil. It says, "You were here. You mattered. You are remembered." When the vampires attack the Juke joint, it isn't just a fight of fangs and guns. It becomes spiritual warfare. The Juke joint's sacred energy, charged by the presence of the dead, resists this invasion together. Now, some viewers might have missed it, but if you watch closely during the climax, you'll see a ghostly Chinese railroad worker pulling a lever, causing part of the sawmill machinery to collapse on the vampire. A spectral black woman, hands glowing, guiding Annie towards her protective charms. Spirits singing in the background along to Sammy's final notes, amplifying the song into a kind of magical incantation. In Sinners, the spirits aren't scary, they are sacred. They arrive because Sammy's song isn't just blues, it summons the forgotten. In the Juke joint, the ancestors of the enslaved and the excluded gather together, not to mourn, but to witness. They come for the music, they come for the memory, and they come to make sure we never forget what joy looks like or stolen land, and they come to protect us in our final moments. Juke joints were the incubators of the blues. Artists like Robert Johnson, Charlie Patton, Ma Rainey, and Bessie Smith all played in places like these. It was raw, it was sweaty, it was dangerous, and it was also transformative. In Sinners, the musical power is literal. When Sammy plays, his guitar becomes a channel for ancestral energy. The notes aren't just sound, they are summoning ghosts of the past, including black musicians who died too young or were never allowed to be seen. Gathered in the shadow of the room, this isn't just for horror imagery, it's for mythology. The juke joint becomes a kind of black sanctum, a temple where music isn't just entertainment, it's ritual, it's resistance, it's resurrection. White society viewed juke joints with suspicion and fear. Authorities raided them constantly. Churches, white and black, condemned them. Politicians used them as evidence, saying black people were violent and had no morals. But what they feared wasn't sin, it was autonomy. These places where black people spoke freely, moved freely, and the most dangerous thing of them all, created freely. In Sinners, the vampires represent this same fear. White figures who want to control, appropriate, or destroy what they can't create themselves. Their attempt to invade the juke joint isn't just physical, it's symbolic. They want to corrupt a space that was never meant for them. Juke joints were more than just spaces to unwind, they were acts of rebellion. Sinners understands this. That's why the film's most important scenes, the laughter, the trauma, the betrayal, and the redemption, all happen under the roof of the juke joint. Because where there is rhythm, there is memory. And where there is memory, there is power. And that's my video and my explanation of the juke joint in Sinners. If you liked it, please thumbs up this, spread this across the realm, and of course subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.